Hey friends, today's topic is probably one of my most requested series, which is breaking down what 10 loadout slots I bring into Destiny 2. Keep in mind I am a PvP-centric player, so I don't really have a lot of PvE builds dedicated to this slot, but if I was to speedrun, I would temporarily delete one of my PvP loadouts, load it all up with what I need for a raid speedrun, and then refill it with PvP later, but for now this is just all that I have on tap. The first build is Strand with Lion Rampant exotic boots that allow you to jump and hipfire at the same time. And the reason I play Strand is twofold. Number one is Threat of Ascent, which gives me 30 airborne effectiveness stat for simply using my grapple. And I don't actually have to use the whole grapple. I can use half TJ Henry Yoshi. So I can either double tap my ghost or just tap the grapple button twice. So like that. And you see it only uses half of the charge. But it still gives me Threat of Ascent. So for half of my grapple, I'm able to perfectly go in the air and shoot. And that is worth its weight in gold. In fact, I have considered changing around the stat splits on this. All three of these stats are equally important. If you don't have high intellect, you will not get a super in Trials of Osiris, which is losing you potentially the entire game. You may think it's only one round, but if you're able to shut out a match before they get triple bubbles or something like that, then you just won and ripped the opportunity for them to come back. So it is an imperative stat. But then so is Grenade, because that's my movement tool, that's my airborne effectiveness. And then finally, the melee ability is incredible, not only because it charges fast when you're at the final, but it's because whenever I skate out with DMT, if I see red sniper rifle glints, like on this stairhead glitch, I can just go back the other direction and live to fight another day. So the way that these charges work, it's slow at 0. It gets slightly faster once you have 1 full charge, slightly faster once you have 2 full charges. So ideally, once I get it to all 3 charges, I want to use it once. Obviously, that wasn't a good execution there, but I want to use it once and then let it naturally recharge. And so while I'm waiting for that to recharge, I'm playing the second minigame of this class, which is Drenger's Lash. By throwing a Towering Barricade, it sends out a Suspending Thermite on the floor. And so in tight areas like this dark tunnel, I can, make some noise like I'm fighting something. They think they're going to get a flank, and then, oh, here goes the Suspend. And it's also very good against supers, and I have caught missiles in this before. As well as it gives me yet another way to potentially counter bubbles, where I hit this on the edge of the bubble, it suspends them up, I pretend like I'm going to run out of it, they panic fire their conditional finality, and then I just fish for the headshot. Which, by the way, when I run this, I typically do run a Hipfire Slug or a Swashbuckler grenade launcher. So in either case, I'll be dishing out a lot of damage. The Deadman's Tail that I run goes for Shoot to Loot, just to shoot orbs off the floor, which again, feed into my ability cycle. Sometimes I do Invigoration over Orbs of Restoration. Just depends on what I'm noticing I need more, and I'll switch it. Anyway, if I see an orb on the floor, I shoot it, I get health back, and most importantly, cooldowns. Anytime I throw my barricade, Reaper naturally procs, so it makes an orb on the floor. The other fragments I use, Longer Suspend. Defeating suspended targets grant class ability energy. So depending on how I spam my abilities, I have a game plan to play passive to charge them again so that I can play aggressive in like the next round of Trials of Osiris. Like sometimes it is worth using my grapple to get speed because my Titan Skate can carry that momentum if I do it right. Not the best execution, but you can just see how quickly I traverse the map. Screwball skating, of course. So yeah, overall game plan of this, just play normally. You don't have to float all the time, right? You want to condition your opponent. And whenever they think they're going to repeat, you just come up with the sky approach and tap, fly away. So that's this game plan. I'll show you all of the mods in case you want to copy. I have anything to reduce my cooldowns here. I used to go dexterities, but as I wanted more cooldown stats, I had to give up something, and that was dexterity. But I do get a handling scaler for Threat of Ascent. But like I said, I have considered high discipline, I have considered high strength, but this is ultimately what I land on because supers win trials. And then here are the aspects. The super's honestly a round win, no matter what. It's really, really hard to counter. The next build is Stasis, the other movement class. So while my abilities are recharging in the background, let's go through it. We have Cryoclasm, which you can slide cancel by hitting sprint at the end of the slide with a two-handed weapon. You just have to try every weapon to see which one works with it. Like, I don't think sidearms, for example, work with this. And then we have Howl of the Storm, which recently got buffed. And also the fragment works off of this too, if you want to use like the Ice Archaeologist fragment stuff, but I don't. I like playing the game vanilla. Anyway, this can freeze supers, this can freeze missiles. Believe it or not, if you get a kill with it, heavy-handed procs. I had to test this out, but it absolutely does proc. And then Impact Induction also would proc. The grenade I'm using is Glacier Nade since I am floating in the air. This is a throwable barricade, essentially. It's a platform. Shiver Strike is a great aerial movement tool, but it's on a much stricter use case than Strand because I don't have 3 of them to backpack. Fragments are chains for damage resistance when I'm near my crystals. Impetus, so I can get an instant reload for using Howl of the Storm. Rending, so I can break my crystals faster and do more damage. And then Torment, so even though I'm on what I would say is the lowest reasonable cooldown for a Glacier Nade, I still can get it back reasonably fast by just participating. But I will warn you against this fragment. As you play better teams, you will realize that it's not just like poke damage all the time. It's pretty much an all or nothing. Round ends almost immediately. And you're just not going to be able to take that much advantage of this fragment. But there's a certain way to play that you can. And that's what Lion Rampant's can enable. Again, let's say the power ammo is my opponent, right? Aerial approach. Oh no, I'm got. The difference with Behemoth Titan and Strand Titan is you don't actually have to look at where you want to go because you can redirect your melee by just holding down the ability melee button. So if you accidentally start it on the wrong angle, you can whip your mouse around and fix it. On this map, the Glacier Nade is kind of weird, where if I throw it at the wall, only 1 crystal would appear. Whisper of Shards would also make sense here, since I am going to be breaking a lot of crystals, so I might consider that. Might be better, might be worse. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to have to test that for later, but I can use this as a platform to start my damage, and then I can use my Lion Rampants to chase. So that's what I really like about this. Another thing you could do is Glacier down, barricade the Glacier. If I'm playing against, you know, very sus individual headshot percentage, you can just try to bait them in, Howl of the Storm the corner, and it will freeze them. These are my fragments. Similar kit, I might again change Restoration to melee. I have Kinetic Siphon because I like picking up the orbs to recharge everything for double kills, which do come up frequently enough to warrant. Shotgun is hip fire opening shot again. I also run the Battler sometimes. This is what I run on the Battler. Speaking of blunt execution rounds, this is a melee damage bonus. The actual melee, the ability melee is so strong. You fly at an opponent, release, and then immediately spam melee, and you'll do like a 1-2 combo where they just don't have time to react. Their melee will short stop. They'll miss their shotgun because of desync. All the above. It's just like, it's such an obviously good opener, which is why I built into strength as my highest other stat other than intellect. If I go any lower than this, I'm not sure if I will get a super. So if I'm playing with other Behemoth Titans, I will probably switch this to Shards. At the moment, Torment just makes more sense to me because I'm not always going to be in a position to shoot my Glaciers to get this recharge and live through shooting them. Whereas the other Fragment, I don't even need cooldowns to rebuild my nade. So I guess that's the reasoning. Now for the super does handle bubbles, where you can just stand outside of a bubble and put your row of crystals up. You can slide into them. Pretty cool. Hold down the melee, release the target. A lot of people forget to release and then just think these type of supers are bad. Let's show off some slide canceling. That's how fast you can move, and then you can also chain the melee to go a different direction, right? So this is why this class is so addicting, such a neuron activator. Between both of these, I find them very fun. I would argue that this is the most optimal split because if you have Behemoth teammates who run Tectonic Harvest, you can replenish all of your melee abilities without really speccing into it. So that's also food for thought, depending on what teammates you play with. But typically, all my friends run Hunter anyway, so not really valid there for me. Okay, let's move on to the most popular loadout. This is the Peacekeeper Titan. Right now, Immortal is going to be my cookie cutter daily driver SMG. I used to use Phylotactic Spiral, and not that that one got significantly worse. It's that the Peacekeeper nerf cut all their bonuses in half, which includes the 100 handling. And since this Immortal Adept comes in at exactly 51 handling, it goes to 100 with the bonus to Peacekeepers. So it is very noticeable. Okay, let's jump off the map to get a little bit of green while I talk about what decision-making process I came up for this. So if I could have Peacekeepers that were slightly better stat rolled, I would have 9 intellect, 4 discipline, and 4 strength. You would think just go the lowest strength possible so you can have your nade more often, but I use my shoulder charge as a movement ability a lot, and so I just want to have it back even sooner so I can use it again. And also sometimes you just need to use the shoulder charge to seal around, and I want to get my movement tool back as soon as possible. Also, Suppressor probably isn't best spent to spam. By the way, Scatter Nade with Controlled Demolition is just better if you stack multiple Sentinels on the same team. But again, since I can't guarantee that I'll be playing with other Titans, I go the more Weenie Hut Juniors combo of going extended melee range and Suppressor. I hate the melee extenders in this game because they're so jank to deal with, but since Suppressor really doesn't get any mileage out of Controlled Demolition, there's no point in me running this. I'm just simply using Suppressor either to rip the ability spam or to get rid of a super in the future. This is my contingency for bubbles and wells and winning in a clutch situation. Whereas Scatter Grenade is keeping someone out of an area and getting a free opening pick. But the problem with being the only Scatter Grenade user is you can't throw 2 or 3 of them into the same spot to guarantee that hit. To me, that's just about as useful as Suppressor. I would say Scatter is still easier to use because, like, let's say there's a situation where you know you're getting rushed down by 2 people. As soon as you break line of sight, you just throw that Scatter at the floor, and it instantly detonates and potentially rips the 1 or 2 opponents. Whereas Suppressor has to be planned sometimes in a situation where you're going to let it detonate on yourself. So for that same situation with Suppressor, I have to be even faster and then still be moving. And it's just those little milliseconds add up to where Scatter is just the better nade on both cooldown, potency, etc. because all the Titans can share Controlled Demolition. Hope that makes sense. I go Suppressor for the clutch factor and for the frag bounces where you're trying to, like, let's say I want to hit somebody Right here, I want to chow them, so maybe I throw my suppressor off the wall, don't get art teamed, peek at the same time as I back them up, they walk into the nade. But unfortunately, if I say the term art team, it means structures like... You know what? I'm on the perfect map for this. This is what I mean by art team. Let's say I am trying to walk across. Look, I'm holding W, and my character cannot move. The same thing can happen to your suppressor nade. Where you throw a suppressor expecting it to bounce, and it doesn't bounce forward, it goes right back at you. So you just have to accept that these little divots in the ground, these attention to details by the art team, sometimes mess up your frag grenades, and that's just something that you have to deal with in this game. Same as melee lunge. So there's a way to do a consistent toss, but a lot of times your opponent is such a good player that you have to go for the frag bounces to cover two options. And I've got some beautiful suppresses on my channel, if you've ever seen some of my videos. Fragments are dilation, so that when I crouch, I get a more enhanced radar. Don't think it really shows here. Leeching, so I get health back for a melee. Since this is a melee-based build, it's also an extra stat. Starvation for Devour, and Vigilance, so I can have the extra overshield just for winning a gunfight. This class is all about giving your team the plus 40. So give them the plus 40 overshield, and you're that much more likely to win. I get more cooldowns here too. It's really, really good. Anyway, I build into throwing my barricade, winning my gunfight. An orb drops on the floor. I'm taking my next gunfight while moving towards the orb. I'm purposely staying in the fight till I'm weak. Then I step over the orb. Then I get full health, finish the fight, extend Devour, get some grenade cooldown. I get Echo of Vigilance because they're also a good player and can guarantee that I'm low health. And then I have a chance to rip the third player, which is usually where something like the shoulder charge comes in clutch. It's just like, that's the time to burn it and win what otherwise would have been an unwinnable 1v3. So that's my reasoning for this. 39 mobility seems weird, but it's kind of optimal because Peacekeepers give plus 25. It's a good enough strafe. Granted, like, it is a very, very, very noticeable nerf, and I wasn't too much of a fan of the direction of that nerf, but I have to admit, after playing it, it's very fair. I just wish the overall aim assist of the game was lowered so that we didn't need hyper movement to fight against controller adhesion and mouse and keyboard shooting trucks that flinch you out of hand cannons. So yeah, that's just micro rant aside. On the Destiny item manager, I do have a 75 mobility setup, and this is more for quick play because when I am at 6 recovery, I get bullied. Also, I need to delete that because I now use Occluded Finality or Uzume, either one. I'm just tired of wells living in well users living in their well because they have high resilience. Anyway, this still gives you a fast enough strafe to mess with controller players, but the biggest thing, I actually think I recorded this. I'm gonna go off script here a little bit. Not that I like had a strict script, but I did have an idea what I wanted to talk about. This video is called "This Controller Changed Everything." In the corner, I'm ready. So this is part... I said something along the lines of like, this was perfect. So watch, body shot hit. I put some chip damage in, and then I manually reload. You need to put that little amount of chip damage in. Then as soon as I'm about halfway through this magazine, I'm going to do what's called a nom load. So Nom's a very, very experienced SMG player, and I will link his channel, his Twitch channel, in the description below if you want to see some like amazing tier SMG gameplay. But he innovated this technique, which is you switch weapons while you fire, and you get an automatic magazine refill. And you have to manually reload it again to reset that. Okay, so I want your eyes to be right here. Watch the numbers. That is why Peacekeepers are still good. The handling is why Peacekeepers are still good. While the strafe was wounded, and that was the only reason that I preferred to use them, there are still now other reasons. So now let's watch what happens when the nom load kicks in. Barricade breaks, player gets ripped, and I have enough bullets for another team time to kill.
Oh, that was perfect.
So let's watch it again full time.
Oh, that was...
Here are the armor mods. The surge doesn't matter that much, but I will tell you, I get my bubble really early into the match, and just because I have a bubble doesn't mean I have to use it. So I put Strand Surge here so that I'm always able to collect an orb of power off the floor, even if I have a full super. So very important thing on my notepad, I have, you know, all my loadouts here. I have something on number 3 that says pivot to arc, strand, stasis. Pivot meaning at a moment's notice, I can switch to arc and have a usable loadout. So these are the arc fragments, aspects. I can change those up as I want. But let's say I'm loading into a match and I notice I need Arc Titan. All I do is just change this Recov mod to a mobility mod and I'm ready to go. Just like that. I can do the same thing with Strand. Strand. Keep our Recov mod on. Same thing. And this, by the way, I'm going to make sure my controller registers here. This melee on controller is different because you don't have to look. Look, I'm going to strafe to the left while holding my crosshair right here. And then I'm going to melee into cover without looking at the cover. So that is what makes it broken right there on controller. And why this class is underappreciated. By the way, when I play this sometimes, I will rebind this melee to what my hunter dodge would be, because I basically consider it a hunter dodge. So I can slide, get a little curious, look for this SMG fight, swipe back into cover. Crazy. By the way, I'm still loving this Nacon controller. It really was the game changer. And then for stasis, switch a Recov mod to, I think, strength. I guess that makes... Oh, no, it's mobility. Mobility. And it's the exact same game plan as Lion Rampant. You just play more aggressively and grounded. But you still use your slide cancel. And let's say that there's a sniper at this head glitch. Wall goes down. Slide cancel. Oh no, sniper didn't hit the shot. Or, sniper... Let's say sniper did hit the shot. Sniper hit the shot. Oh, I'm gone. See ya, dude. Same game plan. So let's reset that. This is my Peregrine Titan. Why? Because Conditional Finality is the best gun in the game. And some say that it's too powerful because it destroys bubbles and wells. But I would say it's balanced because it destroys something as powerful as bubbles and wells, which win games on their own. So in isolation, yeah, the shotgun's broken, but because it stops the most degenerate playstyle, not calling you an insult, by the way, it's just like a term to express that in gaming. Because it handles bubbles and wells, this saves the game. So much so that it becomes bland. And so let's say that I am running conditional with, let's say, I like Abyss Defiant. I really, really love this auto rifle. But I'll just say I'm on a hand cannon for competitiveness sake, right? This is what I have to run on most of my loadouts because I don't have a way to handle bubble and well. So let's say I'm playing like my OEM striker. Yeah, bubble comes up, hit him with conditional, round over, I win. But what if I want to use something else? What if I want to use, let's say, Revision 0 and Matador 64? Okay, well, let's say I'm playing this on my OEM. Bubble drops, I don't have a missile because I have a shorter cooldown. Or they're just better. Yeah, I don't have a way to kill the bubble. But if I was on my Peregrine setup, I always have a way to kill the bubble. And this is how. Offensive Bulwark gives you more melee damage. Gives the range too, but the damage is what we're looking for. All I have to do is have an overshield. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get out of line of sight of this bubble, drop this down. Maybe they don't hear it. Maybe it masks with the sound of the bubble. We're going to ask teammates to distract. And then you do your little bunny hops in and Peregrine Strike. And by the way, you can do bunny hops with this. Like, it's very awkward on controller, but you have to keep buffering the jump on the floor to keep Peregrine Strike even though you're on the floor. See what I mean? If you look at the left of the screen, it's still up. And that's how you have to use this. I used to run this back in D1 with Last Word Snipe because it worked as a pocket shotgun. This nerf hurt it enough that I don't consider it a pocket shotgun anymore. I consider it a alternative to conditional finality that is harder to use. But harder to use never really stopped me because it just means I now have more options if I got it like that. And as a content creator, no, as a player, I think variety is more fun, and it also makes me a better overall player because I could take lessons learned from like how I'm spacing with Revision 0 to play against like No Time to Explain users or something like that whenever I'm running like Rat King. So that's why I value variety, and that's why Peregrine Greaves are glued to my character. I made another note here. Pivot to Arc Juggernaut. Why might I say that? Well, it's a real easy swap. I think I just swap one mod for mobility. Maybe I don't. Let me see if I remember here. I think I would lose one of the unflinching and just change that. I'm not sure. I don't remember how it's... Oh, I know how to do this. There we go. So those go to mobility. Now I have my stat splits. Now I can explain. So then I pivot to Juggernaut with... I guess I don't really need Knockout. It does say it increases damage, so I guess I do need Knockout. And then I'll switch from Lightning Nade to Flashbang. Keep Shoulder Charge on. I'm allowed to go Thruster now. And if a bubble comes up, by the way, this will not kill them. But having Juggernaut up does allow you to use this as a pocket shotgun. Because the Juggernaut shield will just eat anything except for conditional finality. Which I know is a really, really common pick. But you'd be surprised at the range they have to be to freeze you. So you're probably still getting the Shoulder Charge. But if you did want to kill a bubble, this is how it needs to look. You have to ditch Juggernaut or Knockout, one of the two. You have to choose between the two. I think I would ditch Knockout in this case. Then you have to run Storm Grenade. You don't need the Jolt aspect, but it helps. I don't want to go under 4 Discipline. But this is kind of like my suppressor argument on Void Titan. I am simply using this Storm Nade to shut down a future bubble. So if I have to lose a fragment to guarantee that I delete a bubble, I'm down. So let's say the bubble drops. I throw the Storm Nade at the top of the bubble. The Storm Nade pierces the bubble. I let them cook in the bubble for a second. Activate Peregrine Strike, then go for the one hit. It's so much damage, though, that if your teammates so much as breathe on the Titan inside, you're going to kill him with Peregrine. So it's a strat that you can rely on, but it's just not 100% consistent, like the Void Titan. So I do have that as a note that I can pivot to Arc at any point if I want the like Juggernaut shotgun combo. Okay, let's start this up again. While I am showing off the OEM Titan. I really don't have to go into too much detail as to why One-Eyed Mask is good. But you get a thick overshield for winning your 1v1, which on the Striker kit is pretty easy if you save up abilities. Having 2 lightning grenades to zone somebody out to force them into a 1v1 gives you your overshield and has a lot of clutch factor. I had to forego Dune Marchers. I do love Dune Marchers as far as centering my aim better on controller, but I don't feel like they're 100% necessary for my gameplay anymore since I'm playing less speed boots. And you're going to see that trend follow into my Warlock. I know that Peacekeepers are speed boots, but again, I said they have a variety of bonuses like the stray speed and the reload. Dunes enhance the melee, which it's great, and it does have a clutch factor sometimes. Dunes, you might live more for having the speed and slide. You might get to places first. Dunes are really, 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 really good. but so is getting an overshield when everyone else has it because they're playing Void. So it lets me have some of the power of Void on a different subclass, and I think I might be able to squeeze out that little bit of net gain that I would otherwise be getting from Dune Marchers. So I'll have to test it. If this doesn't go well, I will just no-brainer go back to Dune Marchers, though. They're that neck and neck. Fragments are stat and stat. Instinct, momentum. Momentum is a huge one. I basically use this to work as my strength stat. Anytime there's special ammo on the floor, I tell my teammates, get away from that, get away from that. Slide over. Get that. Shoulder charge, great for movement, great for repositioning. On this class, I'm allowed to switch to thruster. I have another arc build later, you'll see. You can chain movement from thruster if you go at like a 90-degree angle from landing. Let me try that again. Nope. That one's a little weird for me. There we go. Yeah, I had to use my other class ability bind for this. I just use that so rarely, though. I'll have to build up that muscle memory in 6s again later. It's been a while since I played Titan. I'm a Hunter main now. Speaking of underutilized things, though, we have Sunbreaker. This is a similar idea to why I went Greaves. It's the answer to Bubble without having to use conditional. This is a similar game plan. So let's talk about the aspects and fragments while it charges. Consecration is not a joke if you pair it with Incendiary Nade and Ember of Ashes. You apply more Scorch. So if you even breathe on them with any amount of Scorch, this Incendiary Nade will delete them. So I like to either send the nade out first or the melee, vice versa. Either will work. But I do like to do the frag bounce, right? Like, I'm trying to hit two enemies right there. Frag bounce, time it. And that just deletes an entire team because it spreads Scorch all over the place. Now, how do I deal with the bubble? The answer is simple. Bubble pops. I put Sunspot Barricade on the edge and dance in and out of my barricade. And that Sunspot will cook them. I have clutched this up more than with Conditional Finality. And it gets even better if you combine it with Conditional Finality and Lorelei. You're doubling your chances to stop a bubble. And yeah, that's pretty much why I run this. It's also really, really good in 6s for playing a primary and just gunning everybody, because you have a way to just heal while in the gunfight. Because if you get critically wounded, it automatically drops the Sunspot. Granted, though, I like to always pre-place my barricade at corners, so I kind of always have it anyway. And you can see I just refresh it every time I go in. And also, it refreshes my abilities, so I have more opportunities to do the Thermite into Incendiary. And that's the real simple game plan of my Lorelei Titan. This, with the Trials of Osiris symbol, is my anti-cheat. I'm going to go with the Arbor Warden first. So the Arbor Warden, I fell in love with how it enhanced Thunderclap as a game plan. And so this is a guilty pleasure loadout for me. It is so much fun. It used to have a broken interaction with Juggernaut, which is why I would have considered it anti-cheat. You're not going to win against a hard aimbot with this, but you will win against a very, very talented, legit sniper, because you can break lines of sight. If I know I'm getting held off by an angle above those stairs, sorry, it's mayhem. You throw your barricade, then you peek. I'm going to try that again from a slightly different angle, a different throw. I'm not sure if the fastball applies to this. Okay, there we go. We blocked off the sniper, and now we're allowed to cross. And that's all you do with this. It lets you basically do the Glacier Nade playstyle on Arc Titan to get all your health back. But the reason that I love this exotic is because I get to do this. Oh no, I'm getting chased by a shotgunner. So you throw this down, then you just charge up the Ballistic Slam instantly. That right there activates the Neuron for me, which is why it's, again, a go-to Guilty Pleasure 6s loadout. So I'm about to slide people. And if I don't like the peak, I don't have to commit to it. I can flick the mouse when it's 90% charged and hit a different direction entirely. Some people get really big brained by this because you wait your corner and just walk out. It's nice. I also can pivot to Strand, but I will lose 1 recovery tier. So it's worth it because the Pokeball is pretty funny. This is the other anti-cheat loadout. This is built on Armamentarium with Cold Snaps and Howl of the Storm. I have 3 different ways to put a cheater in the dirt. So let's say I'm playing against a cheater. They're getting cocky, but they're not flying through walls yet. Well then, I play my radar, right? I never peek. Barricade goes up. Tell my teammates what's going on. We're talking about aggro, who has it. And all I have to do is just wait to see the cheater, bounce a Cold Snap, hits cheater, we cryo slide into him. Or we bounce fighting line. We never take a line of sight duel, which is why this is double grenade launcher. And if they do get cocky and chase me, Howl of the Storm. And I can just slide through this row if I wanted to lead them to. By the way, the Cold Snap the corner into slide at them just instantly deletes them, and honestly would be better with Diamond Lance, but I'm just 100% focusing on this as like a chance to beat a bad cheater. If the cheater really wants to win, even if they are not an experienced Destiny player, they can just fly through the wall to win. So you will not ever beat those. But just the hard aimbot and the wall hacks, this gives you hope. And so that's why it will forever stay in my loadout. And I might even make some tweaks to this in the future. That's the drip if you wanted to know. By the way, if Titan Fashion seems a little too samey, that's because we don't have a lot of good gauntlets. These are the only good gauntlets in the game. So Bungie needs to do better with the streetwear. I like this look because in a weird sort of way, I genuinely like the look, but in a weird sort of way, it masks who I am on the field. Because if every Titan sounds and looks like this, how do they split second know it's me? If they hear this sound and get a glimpse of the player from the peripheral from both sides of them, how do they know it's me? And so, yeah, if I can have that little micro advantage, I'll take it. Okay, now that you've seen all my PvP builds, the only one that is probably subject to change on this lineup is the OEM Titan. I'm gonna review it, and if I don't like it, it's gonna be Dunes again, because I really like the Dunes. But if I pop off with OEM, it's just gonna stay OEM. All right, let's talk about my PvE loadouts. This is what I'm gonna be calling the Gauntlet Toolbox. It shifts, like, think about it. Synthoceps are good. Aeons are good to swap to. Worm Gods are also good. So what if I had a loadout that could swap all 3 of these without losing my stat splits? It just kept everything the same. So I didn't have to make 3 individual loadouts. Well, this idea takes that same process and applies it to Synthoceps, Worm Gods, Aeons, Stronghold, Pyrogale. I don't think I need Ursa in that lineup. So all of those gauntlets are swappable on Strand, and all of those gauntlets' exact same armor is swappable on Solar. So by utilizing 2 PvE loadout slots, I'm accounting for like 4 to 6 different Titan loadouts. And I have even more thought process in this, where I have a extra Lion Rampant for PvE and an extra PvE Gauntlet. So I switch to the Gauntlet, I switch to Lion Rampant, I switch to Eager Edge, and now I have a jump puzzle set up instantly that still will keep my stat splits. And if I want to do the alternative movement loadout, I have a placeholder armamentarium that I will get a better roll of later that will let me store 2 grapples for when I'm doing, like, let's say, the new dungeon on Vostok, where I use my grapples to get instant verticality to then Eager Edge somewhere. So in either case, I have my GM builds, my raid builds, my speedrun builds, all condensed into just 2 loadout slots. And so that's like my ultimate goal for PvE Titan, so that I can free up more of these slots on tap so that I can have more fun in PvP. I can have fun when I'm running conditional finality to stop bubbles. I can have fun when I'm not running conditional finality to stop bubbles. So that's my reasoning for my Titan loadouts. Let's talk about the weapons. I made a very quick weapon swap with most of the stuff that I consider good, and this auto rifle is just a placeholder for generic primary. A lot of these weapons I really enjoy, including the Rat King, but the reason I don't bring Vigilance Wing in here is because I already have high enough recovery that I don't really need a Vigilance Wing to fix that. Classic Immortal, Hipfire Heritage, Eye of the Storm Hawkmoon, Epic Defender's exact ignition code, got it signed by him. Rat King, Dead Man's Tale, Wither Horde for lineups, Revision 0, auto rifle that I like to shoot. Starting off with the other auto rifle that I like to shoot, this Abyss Defiant. This is my MVP weapon. It would, have a jersey in the local pub hung up on the wall. So, as Fallout would say. Starting, Galu is getting out of here. We are not on Team Galu anymore. We are on Team Occluded Finality. That's going in there. And if not Occluded Finality, it's going to be Uzume. Still deciding on those two. BXR Battler. With the BXR perk, I do Heating Up just because yellow numbers activate the neuron. Under Your Skin is the best name for a bow ever, correct? Because when you keep getting plinked by a bow in the back of the map, and you know that it's impacting your ability to play the match better, well, then you might have to match their bow play style. And so Hipfire Grip with Lion Rampants does that. Titan is the worst bow class, but this is the only usable bow setup. And I know someone out there is going to say, oh, you just go like this extremely niche Titan build that, trust me, it's just compared to Hunter and Warlock, that's what I'm comparing to. I don't care about Titan the Titan. There's just what I have to minimalize the amount of bow setups that I have. I can just throw this on my Lion Rampant Titan and call it a day. Gunora's Axe, I don't use my Threat Detector one because I don't need it on Titan. But if I do play like a triple invis team, I'll just drag it over. Wizened Rebuke with Offhand Strike works again with Lion Rampants. Fighting Lion is a classic setup for either PKs or if they ever make a Hipfire Grip weapon in the kinetic slot, could be my future Lion Rampant setup. But for now I have Dead Man's Tale and I use a Swashbuckler Truth Teller, which gives me the Halo Reach Pro Pipe vibes. Hipfire Hand Cannon, if you saw my crafting video, you would know that although this is good, it's not great because you get flinched by hand cannons. If we ever have a better way to build into anti-flinch, which by the way, I'm doing everything I can on these setups to do so, this hand cannon's still just okay, but hitting the long-range Hipfire 3-tap activates the neuron, so we use it anyway. Matador 64, my standard roll, and then all the power weapons, your standard run-of-the-mill. Got my information stick to suss out invis players, which is why I don't stress on having a threat detector version. Threat Detector, Disruption Break. 6's Kill Feed. Pulls 4 ammo off the wall because of Remote Detonation. Also, I think Remote Detonation is just better if you got it like that. Eager Sword. And then this is a rocket launcher that pulls 3 off the wall. So, yeah, it's really good. Okay, friends, I hope that my reasonings made sense. I stumbled through a couple of them, but I think I fixed it. Anyhow, I will see you in the next one. I'm not telling you which class I'm doing next. You'll just have to find out.